You're not alone. If you need someone to talk to today, please contact Crisis Services Canada by either calling them at 1-833-456-4566 all hours of the day, or you can text them at 45645 at 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Time. Remember, you're not alone, and Crisis Services Canada is here to help. Welcome to this edition of Coffee with Graeme on ASTV Productions. I'm your host, Graeme Forsyth. Today's episode is presented by Pure Innata, Fabricland Winkler, and Evolve Green today. I'll be joined by two players. It's going to be a two-parter today, so two separate interviews in today's episode. But before I get into introducing the first guest in today's show, I just want to give you guys an update on AAA leagues here from Manitoba and Saskatchewan regarding the status of the 2020-2021 season. The Saskatchewan Male U18 AAA Hockey League announced the cancellation of their season Friday, February 26th. This is some older news, but I thought it would be good to let you guys know if you don't know the league was canceled already. But in a league with 12 teams, collectively, they were only able to get 72 games in both exhibition and regular season play from October to November. And some more recent cancellations coming from two leagues in Manitoba. Starting off with this one on Saturday, the Manitoba AAA U18 Hockey League announced that their season was done. Out of the 12 teams who got to play regular season games, 66 were played in total. The MFHL also announced that their season is canceled. The MFHL only had a chance to get in 44 regular season games this season before shutting the league down in October. And my first guest in today's episode is number 6 for the Fort Garry Twins of the MMJHL, Alexandre Fillion. And Alexander is in his final season of MMJHL eligibility this year, so unfortunate that he won't be able to finish it off by playing any more regular season and potentially playoff games due to the MMJHL calling it quits for the 2020-2021 season on February 20th. But I had a chance to go through Alex's whole career with him from the start of his career in the MM, where he started off playing with the St Boniface Riels before getting traded to the Fort Garry Twins in 2018-19. I had a chance to talk about what his time was like with the Twins, and at the end of the interview, we dive into a bit of his time with the Collège Béliveau Barracudas high school hockey team, where he played there in his high school days. So sit back, enjoy today's edition of Coffee with Graeme and this first interview with the number 6 of the Fort Garry Twins, Alexandre Fillion, on ASTV Productions. Phil, great to have you on the show tonight, buddy. I always said that I wanted to get one of the boys on the podcast. As me and you, I'd say we're friends. I'd say we're pretty good friends. And the last time that I spoke to you was on a fantasy draft night, and I was actually sitting in this very spot. And the next time that we're connecting is now, and I'm in that very same spot. But Phil, thanks so much for joining me tonight, man. Just how have you been doing during this time of not being able to play on the ice during the MMJHL season?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Graeme. It's a pleasure to be here. It's definitely been tough last few months ever since the lockdown in November. It's definitely taken a toll on me physically and mentally. Obviously, for the longest time, I wasn't allowed to go skate with the team and go to the gym and exercise, and obviously, not being able to go out to too many places, it's definitely taken a toll on a lot of people, including myself, mentally. But, I do acknowledge and realize that there are bigger things going on in the world. And that's what's kind of keeping me going, is knowing that there's a lot of good people out there, especially on the front lines, that are trying to do their best and do their part to end this pandemic. And All you can do is kind of just root for them. But yeah, hockey wise, it's obviously disappointing to not be able to play out my last year, but there's not much you can do at that point. So I'm definitely happy to still be healthy and happy and trying to do my best to get through the pandemic.
Yeah, for sure. And during this pandemic, there's been, some ups with the restrictions kind of getting lifted a bit, with us being able to have two designated people in our households, which is nice. Like, I wasn't able to see my girlfriend for the longest time, and that was probably one of the toughest things. And just in general, not being able to see friends, doing the usual things like we were able to during this time has definitely forced people to change quite a bit. But it's great to know that you're staying as positive as you can during this time. And unfortunately, you've played your last game as a Fort Garry Twin, as the season was officially canceled on February 20th. That was the announcement made by the MMJHL. So just hearing that announcement, I'm assuming that for yourself, knowing that with all the other cancellations, I know that Hockey Winnipeg canceled the rest of their leagues. I know that the MFHL, the female league, hasn't announced anything yet, but the clock's ticking on a lot of leagues here. The MJHL also announced earlier, I believe it was like earlier this year, that they canceled the remainder of their season, and then the MMJHL, of course, followed up like on this on Saturday of February 20th. But just hearing that announcement, knowing that it's your last season to make a run with this team, just how did that make you feel hearing that news?
Yeah, obviously it was super disappointing. I was really hopeful to play out my last season this year. Obviously, our playoffs from last season got cut short due to the pandemic, but we definitely, not just myself, but the whole team, we had high hopes of going for a championship run and trying to win it all this year, but we weren't able to display our talents the way we wanted to because we only got to play a handful of games throughout the season. So it was also tough knowing that it was my last season eligible to play in the league, and to not be able to play it out this year definitely sucked. But again, I'm just trying to stay optimistic and trying to move on with my life and see what the future holds for me.
Well, let's move into your first season ever in the MMJHL. Was the season after you graduated from high school. You ended up playing for a team in your home area in St Boniface, for the St Boniface Riels. And just going into that season, making the jump from high school hockey, a league where you at one point you played guys that were like a year older than you, then you moved up to being that senior player, moving into the MMJHL where you're playing against men at this point. Just how was it like getting used to the game in that first season in this league?
Yeah, it was definitely a huge transition period for me. Obviously, playing in high school, I did have, quite a bit of success. I was playing guys around my age, and especially my grade 12 year, I definitely had a dominating season from my point of view and both ends of the ice. But yeah, it was certainly a big jump to go to the MMJHL. You're playing older guys, some guys 2-3 years older, a lot bigger, stronger, and I was a pretty scrawny kid from grade 12 high school to my first year in the MM. So I definitely had to get a lot stronger, had to adapt my game to a much faster pace in the MMJHL, but I really did enjoy my first year. I thought the guys were great. I had a good experience with the Riels. They allowed me to play in some fairly decent roles on the ice, and it definitely propelled me to improve my game and keep enjoying playing hockey in that league for the following 2-3 seasons. So I definitely did enjoy my time in my first year.
And you talked about how you're kind of scrawnier coming into that first season into the MMJHL, and you do a lot of strength training coming into that season to get prepared for making the jump into the MM?
Yeah, in a way I thought I did until I realized I got to camp and I was definitely I'd say almost underweight, but I mean I was still quick enough and I had I definitely had the smarts to compete in the league regardless, but it definitely was something that I had my eye on for the following summer, notably, just to get in the gym and start beefing up a little bit. But I did realize too that I was a pretty young kid. I was 17, 18 years old my first year in the league, and it did come with time eventually, putting on the weight and getting stronger and being able to skate faster than what I was before. And, it was an adapting period of time where I had to realize that I had to get in shape a little bit better than what I was before. But no, I definitely transitioned well. And, my first year was definitely a good, I guess, wake up call for that. But yeah, regardless, I had a good time in all 3 of my years playing in the league.
Coming in, like you said that you were young, obviously being a rookie in the league. What was it like getting to bond with the teammates you did with that Riels team?
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting dynamic. I mean, there's a few guys that I played with that I had previously played with during my childhood or had gone to school with, and I enjoyed the company of guys like our captain at the time, Nick Burmy, who's a super great guy and an excellent hockey player, and who happened to go to high school with me in the same high school as you, Grim. So obviously you can attest to that and how good of a person and of a hockey player he is. But no, I think we had a good dynamic in the room for the most part. I mean, we got along pretty well. As a rookie, you do have to go through your what they call your rookie initiations, and it was fun at times, and it was less fun at times as well. But for the most part, I definitely did enjoy my rookie year, and no, it was definitely a blast. And my first year was definitely a reason why I kept playing in the league the following seasons.
Yeah, and just talking about Nick Burmy, honestly, Phil, I didn't really talk to many people at Belleville when I was there. I just kind of stayed in my own lane, did my thing. But I know that I've had a chance to play with you and the boys on Crown Royals, which is a beer league team that we played for. And Burmy got called up to, I think, like a couple games last year at least, and just looking at him on the ice and just seeing his character in the room of a beer league team, it just shows what type of person and leader he is out there. Just to come into a beer league locker room and do what he did in those games, and just he makes people feel welcome, which is, I think, that's probably the biggest thing about Nick Burmy's character. Just in terms of just the guys that you got to play with, that you played with before in your childhood, do you think that being able to play with those guys in that first year made the transition to playing with older competition that much more simply?
Yeah, obviously it did help playing with guys I admired playing with and guys I admired as people. I mean, I look like, again, a guy like Nick Burmy, who's just, you have to just admire his competitiveness, his level of, wanting to win every night. And it's guys like that drive you to keep playing and keep pushing and keep competing for the ultimate prize, which is a championship at the end of the season. And I've always been a pretty self-driven guy when it comes to hockey, and obviously having peers, notably with guys I've played on the Cudas and in my minor league days with the Railcats, I was definitely able to meet certain players and coaches that always motivated me to get better and to keep enjoying playing hockey. And I think that, to your point and to your question, Graham, it definitely has helped me, keep playing for the Riels and ultimately the Twins in the Mmjhl. And it's something that I do cherish and will cherish forever.
And just talking about the season that you guys did have that year, you guys struggled that season. Just looking at the record, you guys were 19, 22, and 4. And you guys had some skill on paper, like guys like Nick Burmy, yourself coming up, even though you're a rookie. Just a team that seems like they couldn't quite put it together out there on the ice, but looked like they had a lot of skill on paper. How do you feel that the team struggled so much in that first season? Like, why do you think the reason for that was?
It's tough to pinpoint a certain aspect in which we were doing awful. But we did go through a rut of, I think we had lost 15 or 16 games in a row at some point in the season. And if if you put it into perspective, that's basically a third of the season. So when you get deeper and deeper into that losing streak, you know, you just kind of lose the morale in the room, and you know, guys start getting frustrated. But you know, we just had to keep persevering, and you know, we had a coaching staff that was, you know, where there were different opinions on the coaching staff as to whether or not they were good, they were bad, they were helping us, or they were not helping us with this losing streak, and why we were doing so bad in the season to begin with. But regardless of that, I think they still always put an effort to get guys motivated and to get guys to keep working and keep pushing, and eventually that we were going to get better and better as the season went along. And regardless of that 16 or 15 game losing streak, whatever it was, we just tried to stay positive and keep pushing. And eventually, you know, we got to beat the worst place team at the time, the River East Royal Knights, but it had felt like we had won $1 million. But you know, it's things like that that you'll remember forever, even though at the time it was awful. And it's just also the mindset you had at that time that you'll remember as well, how it was devastating and how you just felt like you couldn't get out of it. But ultimately, you know, you had a good room of guys who were just trying to push to get out of it and to ultimately win a game. And that's what we did. And we ended up making the playoffs that year. So it was definitely something to build off of and going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and that word devastating. I mean, for a losing streak like that, it is devastating. And everyone that's played sports before knows it's so tough to lose. And to lose as many times as that, I'm sure that it was not only tough on you guys on the ice with your confidence, but your mental side of things, and just being able to get out of that, and you know, getting a win against River East, who was the worst place team. But like you said, you guys felt like $1 million. Just, you think moments like that, when you do struggle in one point in your playing career, do you think that coming out of those moments like you did, feeling stronger than, you know, stronger mentally, do you feel like those are the moments that really define not only you as a player but a team?
Yeah, I think you do. I mean, you have to realize that when you're going through such a hard time like we did in that first season, I mean, it's tough to put your finger on something positive when all you're doing is losing and you're not scoring, your goalies are getting lit up, and the coaching staff starts getting frustrated, and it just becomes a cluster of negative emotions between every player and teammate and coaching staff. So when you do persevere and you get out of that situation, it is something that you remember, and that definitely defines a certain part of the season and definitely motivates you to get better and keep pushing towards the playoffs. Because at that point, when we had won our game after the 16 game losing streak, we were right around playoff time. And we actually, I remember, I think we had gone just over 500 after that losing streak, which was pretty good for us considering the fact that, yeah, we had lost 16 games in a row. But it was definitely a moment to build off of, and for us to just bring to the playoffs, because really we had nothing to lose. I mean, if we had lost 16 in a row, I mean, it couldn't really get much worse than that. So we just played like we were scared of losing for the rest of the season. And it definitely was a moment that changed us in a mental and physical way.
Moving into the playoffs, you guys were playing a lot better than you were previously when you guys were on that 16 game losing streak. Like you said, just playing over 500 hockey at the time. You guys went up against the Raiders Junior Hockey Club, who was the first place team in the league that season. They ended up winning the championship. You guys go up against them in the first round, and just going into a matchup like that, I'm not sure how you guys did. I'm sure you'll tell me in a minute, but just going up against a team like that that's heavily favored, going up against a team like you guys that have struggled so much in the season, did you guys feel like going into that series, even though you guys didn't win it, that you had nothing to lose and it was just play your game and see whatever happens?
Yeah, I think we did have that sort of mentality, but we also knew that that was a really good team, the Raiders at the time. I mean, obviously we were the 8th place team and they were the 1st place team. Mind you, I actually didn't get to play any of the games against them because I did end up separating my shoulder the last game of the regular season, which was definitely a bummer. But I remember watching in the stands, and we had put in so much time before that first game of the series and watching film and going over what their tendencies were and how we were able to stop them. But ultimately they were the powerhouse of the league, and their top line had put up, I think they each put up close to 80, 90 points each in that season. Wow. Which is a 45 game season. But yeah, so we were definitely in tough, and it was almost playing like an MJHL team at the time. And we knew that after the second game where we got spanked pretty bad. I think we were down, we lost 6-1. We knew that as much as we wanted to keep an effort and wanted to keep our season alive, it was not really going to be something that we could accomplish.
And for you to separate your shoulder in the last game, devastating. Devastating is a word I think we can use for it. And I've said this so many times on the show. I've had my fair share of injuries in my career. Nothing like a separated shoulder, but fractured ribs. Messed up my shoulder in my last minor season. Pulled like my hip flexor, stuff like that. And I know how tough dealing with injuries can be. And for you, just coming to the terms that your season was basically probably over at that point. Just how did you deal with it at the time?
Yeah, like you said, I was devastated. Obviously, we were playing in our last game. It was a meaningful game. Had we won that game, we would have moved up to 7th and had played a team that would have not been the Raiders, which would have been beneficial to us for sure. But yeah, just the fact that it happened in the last regular season game. I had a pretty strong rookie season. I wasn't a point getter or anything like that, but I felt like my game was definitely improving towards the end of the season, and I had gotten recognition from my coaches for that as well. It sucked because I did also feel personally that I was hitting the peak of my game, and I had so much confidence going into that final game of the season and eventually the playoffs. But yeah, just to get shoved out of nowhere from behind and fly into the boards 6 feet away, it was painful in so many ways. And I don't wish that upon anyone, but I just had to persevere, watch the guys try to make an effort in the playoffs, and ultimately come back stronger the following season.
You talked about how at that time you felt like you were hitting your peak, and you had a chance to play, let's see here, 40 games in that season. You had 6 assists and only 18 penalty minutes. And like you said, you weren't that offensive point getter out there, but it seems like for you, I'm assuming that your game in the defensive zone just kept getting better and better during that season. But could you speak about how you developed as a player throughout your first season in the MM?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely started off with a lot of holes in my game in the first few games of the season. I mean, it was definitely noticeable when we'd have video sessions and talking to some of my coaches and things like that. But I definitely did realize that we had some issues defensively. And, I mean, that junior league is pretty well known for high scoring games for the most part. And I did challenge myself to establish a good defensive game before my offensive game, which was always something I was strong at. I think for the most part throughout my hockey career, I've always been a good stay-at-home D-man. But I think that the biggest thing I had learned during that first season was just, and what my main principles were all along throughout my whole career, was just be a responsible player in your own defensive zone and make good transition plays from your D zone to the neutral zone and offensive zone to your forwards, notably. So I definitely did start almost perfecting that, and really got recognition from my coaches, getting some roles, playing on the penalty kill, and getting a lot more ice time as the season went along. So with that came more confidence, and obviously getting the green light to start skating the puck more, being a bit more implicated in the offensive zone. So I definitely, like I had mentioned before, I felt like I was definitely in a good transition period there with my game and trying to help the team win every night. And it's just, again, it's unfortunate with what happened at the end of the season and not being able to participate in the playoffs and show what I got and that sort of scenario.
Yeah, definitely unfortunate. I mean, like you said, you felt like you were hitting your peak at that point, and for you to go out the way you did that, you're definitely like we've said before, devastating. But we're gonna move along now. We're gonna move into the first break of today's show. We're gonna hear from Pure Annata, one of the official sponsors of Coffee with Graeme. I'll be right back with Alexandre Fillion, or I like to call him Phil. Back here in just a moment with the defenseman of the Fort Garry Twins in the MMJHL on this edition of Coffee with Graeme. But first, a word from Pure Annata. Back here on the network with number 6 of the Fort Garry Twins, defenseman Alexandre Fillion. Philly joining me on the show tonight, and we've just been talking about just his first year experiencing MMJHL hockey with the St Boniface Riels, and unfortunately he wasn't able to play in the playoffs of that season due to separating his shoulder in the last game of the season before they started playoffs. But we're going to move on now into the 2018-19 season, and you ended up getting traded from the Riels after playing 12 games with them, and then you ended up getting traded to the team that you ended off your career with, which is the Fort Garry Twins. So could you speak about just how the trade talks were going down at the time for you to be able to be traded?
Yeah, well, I actually didn't really hear anything in terms of trade talks until the official confirmation and the day I got the news I got traded. But I just remember coming into that second year, I was pretty confident in the way I was, my goals, anyways, but my goals that I was going to set, and I felt pretty good physically and mentally coming into that second season, and I just got off to a rough start, but I mean, so did the team. I don't think we really won too many games the first 5-10 games of that season, and I had the feeling that the team was looking for a little bit of a switch up, which obviously included somebody on the team getting traded, and I never really heard my name getting thrown around too much, and actually not at all until the night I got the call. I still remember it. It was a Monday night at 10:30 or 11 p.m. and I was just watching TV, and I got a phone call from the manager of the Riels saying that I got traded to the Twins, and honestly, I was shocked. I mean, I had no idea my name was in consideration, and I was pretty happy at the time considering the start of the season I had, and I wasn't getting along the way I wanted with the coaches too, with the Riels. So it was definitely nice to hear that I was going to get a bit of a change of scenery and a fresh start to the second season of my MMJHL career.
Yeah, and honestly, couldn't imagine, like, you had no idea that your name was even in the discussion for being traded, but you had a feeling that someone was going to be traded. Just knowing that you're going to a team like the Fort Garry Twins, who had a lot of success in that 2018-19 season, a team that finished with 24 wins, 16 losses, and 5 overtime losses, a team that ended up going to the playoffs. For you to get a fresh start there, were you, out of any team that you wanted to get traded to, was the Twins one of the teams that you wanted to go if you ended up getting traded?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I had hypothetically gotten traded to any team in the league, I think they would have definitely been on my top 3, even top 2 list of teams that I'd want to get traded to. So I was super stoked with that, and I had heard nothing but good things about the organization, and I had my cousin at the time playing, and he said he was having a blast there, and the team was doing well, and they really impressed me in terms of greeting me with open arms and helping me be a better player and enjoying my time there. It's obviously not the easiest thing getting traded for anybody, but knowing that they were going to make it that much easier for me was definitely something that I took to heart, and really to this day I'm still thankful for.
And just throughout the years, because you had a chance to not only spend that season with them, but the season last year, and you were playing in your last season this year with them until the league ended up getting shut down. Just knowing that this is a team with the group of players that they got. I know that Seth Nichols is your captain. I had him on the show. Just with players like that in the room and just players before him that were leaders, just do you feel like that's probably one of the things that you've enjoyed most about playing with the Twins is just the culture that they built up?
Yeah, totally. I mean, when I compare the Twins that year to the Riels in terms of team culture and leadership and identity, I definitely would think that the Twins were up there and were one of the top teams, not just to compare to the Riels, but in the league. I mean, I think that was one of the things that was kind of just turning me off from being invested into the Riels, was just kind of that loss of culture of that team identity, wanting to win and being there for each other every night. And that's something that definitely attracted me to, well, when I moved to the Twins, was the fact that they had such a good leadership core with guys like Tyler Slobosian, who was the captain at the time and arguably our best player, and guys like Cole Zadro and Zach Odwak, and all those guys were such good people and good hockey players, and even better leaders on and off the ice. So it was definitely something that I really enjoyed going there the first year, and even the past 2 years playing for the Twins. That's something that was repetitive and definitely positive for the team and the direction we were going.
Can you speak about the coaching staff? I know that my uncle Mark is on the coaching staff as the video guy. I'm not sure who the head coaches were at the time that you started playing there, but just you talked about how with the Riels, you were basically not seeing eye to eye with the coaches on a lot of things. You think like just not only with the culture, but with the new coaching staff and the new way they look at things from when you were playing with the Riels to the Twins, getting that fresh point of view on things. Do you think that was pretty beneficial to you having success in that year?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, thinking back to what was the head coach at the time, and Neil Dawson, and getting to meet him for the first time, I just was getting good energy and good vibes from him. And alongside Neil were obviously your uncle Mark, who's to this day is definitely one of my favorite coaches that I've gotten to play for in the just such a great person, and really knows a lot about the game, and has helped me so much in terms of getting to know the Twins systems and the way they want to play and how to improve my game on a nightly basis. So definitely that coaching change, like you had mentioned, compared to the Riels, where things were going great, and the relationship between the coaches and I were kind of on a downfall. It was definitely such a refreshing feeling to see the new coaches and learn new systems and just kind of enjoy hockey again. It was definitely something I enjoyed a lot.
And yeah, like your offensive game, even though you only put up one more point with 7 points, you had 7 assists and 0 goals. It definitely took a bit of a jump offensively for you. Could you describe what type of player you became offensively in that season as you started developing your offensive game a bit more?
Yeah, so I've always considered myself a pretty strong skater. I would consider myself to be a pretty fast skater as well at times. So playing for the Riels and their kind of system, there wasn't, there weren't many kinds of plays that they wanted to run in terms of D-man joining the rush or getting the green light to go to the offensive zone. So that's also one of the factors that kind of didn't didn't grow my confidence the way I wanted it to. So getting to play for the Twins was definitely eye-opening in terms of growing my offensive game, because I did get the opportunity, to join the Rush, and they'd like to play active defensemen into the play and to the breakout. So it was awesome to get that opportunity and help my confidence and in terms of my offensive game. And I did only put up, I think, one more point, but in less amount of games. And I'm convinced that a man named Jared Bucci like to take away some of the points from defensemen and other players, just so it looks nice on the league leaderboard. But no, all jokes aside, I mean, I think either way, I was just more engaged into the play, and we definitely, that team just that year generated a lot of scoring chances, and I think we had one of the top scoring teams in the league as well. So that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, like you said, your captain Tyler was a great guy, great leader. Cole Zadro was also a great player for when you played for that team, and guys like Jared Bucci. The list goes on about the offensive talent that team had. Just you spoke about how you guys in the first season when you were playing with the Riels, how it was fun to get to bond with just a bunch of people you've played with before in your hockey life, and you guys bonded pretty well as a team, and you guys faced so much adversity. Could you speak about just the overall the culture in terms of just the bonding that you guys did in the dressing room with that Twins team in that 2018-19 season?
Yeah, that was a great thing with the Twins. I actually thought with the Riels, we were such a tight knit team with, guys appreciating each other and, getting to know each other, becoming friends and things like that. But the Twins and the hockey culture and the team culture took that to a whole nother level. I mean, it almost became a brotherhood. We were so close, all of us together. And that was something that I do admire so much about hockey, is how it brings people together and creates bonds and friendships. And with the Twins, I felt like I had made, so many new friends, so many new connections. And not only does it help with, being a part of the team off the ice, but it also helps a lot with, some of the guys and their chemistry on the ice. You see guys starting to play with each other on the line, and all of a sudden they're also, good, close friends off the ice as well. So that's definitely the dynamic that I appreciated playing on the Twins, and something that I still remember now, thinking back on my days with the Twins, and I'm still keeping in touch with some of the guys on the team right now, even though we haven't been able to see each other in over 3-4 months. So it's things like that you definitely admire, and something that you just remember for a long time.
Yeah, and that's the best thing about hockey. I've said it before, in my opinion, is just when you find that right group of guys, you find like people that are your boys. You not only, get along with them on the ice and in the dressing room, but you also, hang out with them in other places too, like at one of your boys' house. And it creates that brotherhood, and it's something that you'll never forget. I know that with your experience playing belly hockey, I know that you made friends for life with that team, going to that school, switching over from Louisville to go to Béliveau in grade 10. Just things like that. I think those are the things that overall, no matter how many championships or no matter how many championships you did not win, those are the things that you'll always remember, is those friendships and connections that you made. Just speaking about that season for you guys were 24, 16, and 5. You guys ended up making the playoffs as a 5th seed, I'm pretty sure. And I'm pretty sure that you didn't have a chance to play in the playoffs that season from what I saw. Just could you speak about what happened for you not to be able to make the transition into playing into the playoffs that season?
Yeah, like you're talking about my 3rd season, or my 2nd?
Yeah, your 2nd. Yeah.
My 2nd, yeah. No, I didn't get to play in the playoffs that season as well, unfortunately. Another hockey-related injury that cut my season short, unfortunately, with a puck taken to the side of the knee, which ultimately caused a fracture in the kneecap. But Yeah, it was another good season. Obviously, not what I wanted personally in terms of not being able to play, but we had our veteran guys lead the way for us that whole season. Again, with guys like Tyler Sloboshan and Zach Odwak and Cole Zadro, who were our top line and just a powerhouse in the league. And it was tough because we had played a red hot St. James team, and they had a slow start that year, I remember, but they were coming along throughout the last part of that season. And going into the playoffs, I knew we had it tough again, and I think we had finished in 6th place that season, and they had moved up all the way to 3rd. And we knew we had a really good chance of beating them, but at the same time, there were some questionable calls being called in the game, and in some of the games, like Game 1, for example, where they came back and tied the game with, I think it was a pretty soft tripping call, and they ultimately won it in overtime. So it's games like that where you look back and you think, is that really what cost us the series? But and sometimes in playoffs when there's two tough teams battling it out every night, it can go either way. And we just came out on the short end of that series, and it was another, like the previous season, another motivating point for me to come back stronger and try to contribute to the team's success in the season and hopefully the playoffs.
Well, we're going to talk about your 2019-2020 season in just a moment here. We're going to go to our second commercial break on today's show. We're going to hear from Fabricland Winkler, the other official sponsor of Coffee with Graeme. I'm here with number 6 of the Fort Garry Twins defenseman, Alexandre Fillion. We'll be right back on this edition of Coffee with Graeme on ASTV Productions in just a moment.
Back on the network here with Alexandre Fillion, number 6 of the Fort Garry Twins, and I actually interviewed him about a week ago, but then we had some connection difficulties, so this is the second part of the interview, I guess we'll call it that. And yeah, Alex joined me once again on this Monday afternoon this time, and last time I talked to Alex, we were just talking about his career in the MMJHL. He started off with the St Boniface Riels and then got traded to the Fort Garry Twins after playing 12 games to start off the 2018-19 season with the Riels, getting traded to the Twins, finished off the season there. And we finished off last time by talking about the 2018-19 season with Fort Garry. Now we're going to dive into the 2019-2020 season that he had a full year playing for Fort Garry. And, you told me last time that you weren't able to experience playoff hockey once again due to injuries. So how did you come into the third season in the MMJHL for yourself to prepare and really get in the mindset to get things rolling in that third season?
Well, I mean, obviously, having played 2 seasons before coming into that season, I definitely had a lot of confidence and a lot of experience under my belt. So I was definitely the most comfortable I've ever been coming into a season. And I felt like I had a really good start to the year. We had our ups and downs that year as well. And, we managed to play some decent hockey throughout the season. We did, like I said, have some ruts that we had to get over. And it was a strong season for me anyways. I had to really prove myself throughout this whole season because I had to, in a way, compete against guys that were on my own team. We had guys like Ben Orris, who's a great guy, a great leader, and a strong player on the team, who is arguably our top defenseman, alongside with Cole Doherty, who's just a beast out there, a really big physical guy who can move the puck. And those guys really helped us carry the team to a certain level of success that year. And at the same time, like I mentioned, it really made me compete to get that ice time and to play the same amount of minutes as those guys. But you know, they were in their last season. They were our leaders, and they were our backbones on the back end essentially. And you know, with the help of those guys and a strong season from Jared Bucci and Cole Zadro, who put up an insane amount of points, who were our leaders offensively. We had a lot of fun, and we had you know, a decent amount of success that year, and I really enjoyed that season. But obviously, got cut short with COVID, and we weren't able to play playoffs, and that was again an unfortunate situation for me and for the team.
Yeah, and unfortunate when you had a chance to play in your first ever playoff series in the so it's unfortunate for you that it got cut short, and of course for all the guys aging out as well. But just talking about guys that really stepped up, one guy comes to mind, like the captain you guys got this year, and Seth Nichols, who put up a career high in points in the season last year. Just how big was it to have a guy like Seth and just the other guys that really came into their own and step up for you guys to have the type of season that you guys did have to make in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, obviously we were relying a lot on our top scorers in our first line with, you know, Cole Zadro and Jared Bucci. But having Seth come in and play a top six, even at some point a top three role on our team, was huge. I mean, the guys that were leading the way were our veteran guys and our, you know, our third and fourth year players that were most likely going to not play the following season due to ineligibility or just not willing to play it just for personal reasons. But you look at a guy like Seth Nichols, who really came into his own last year and really helped us out this year as well. You know, he's such a great guy. He's actually one of my good friends now, and having the support with him and a few other guys on our second and third line, it did definitely help quite a bit for our team last year. And you know, just the progress that he's made as a leader, as a person, and as a hockey player throughout those 3 years that he's been in the league, it's been really amazing to watch. And no one deserves it more than that guy. I mean, he puts it out on the ice every single night, and just a great leader and a great role model for the whole team and the whole Twins organization.
Yeah, and I had a chance to speak with Seth in an interview we did. I forget which exactly. I think it was back in like November. And yeah, he's a great guy and definitely a great leader that you guys had this year wearing the C. Unfortunately, weren't able to get back to playing continue it due to the getting canceled, shut down for the season. But let's talk about you. Talk about your point production that you put up. You put a career high up in points that season. You ended up scoring 2 goals as well, which were your first goals of your career. So what was it like to finally get on that score sheet, scoring a goal in 20 jersey?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it took me a while to get on the scoreboard, but no, it felt good. Once you get that first one, you definitely get a boost of confidence and a boost of mojo. So you know, I was really confident with my offensive game going into my third season. You know, I had previously mentioned that the Twins play a dynamic style in terms of, you know, mobilizing your D-man and getting the green light to bring it to the offensive zone. So, you know, I do feel like I got some points robbed off the scoreboard and off the score sheet for that matter. But no, for me, it was still, you know, getting my priorities straight in terms of being a responsible defenseman in my own zone. I mean, we did end up scoring quite a few goals that season, but we also got scored on a pretty significant amount of times. And we definitely had to make some adjustments defensively throughout the whole season. But yeah, just being able to play that two-way game, you know, I definitely got recognition from my coaches and even from my teammates. As the season progressed, I was more and more confident again with the way I was playing. And again, same story. I got hurt with I think there were 7 games left in the season, and I was hoping to make a comeback, but I guess we'll still never find out today due to COVID and not being able to play out those playoffs, which again sucks. But, yeah, it was still a good season, and I enjoyed the group of guys we had, the success we had on in the standings as well.
So for you guys, you finished 21-19-5 in the regular season. You guys got that seventh seed going in. So you would have been matched up with, I believe, the St. Victorias. And I'm assuming that you knew some of the guys on that team. I'm assuming since, you live in St. Boniface, there's always those guys you know from St. Vital, and you live here in St. B for me personally. But just did you feel like going in, even though the Vics had a heck of a season, their coach ended up winning Coach of the Year, stuff like that, their team was really firing on all cylinders last year. Do you feel like you guys had a really good shot with how you guys looked and the talent you guys had last season to really push this team in a 7-game series in that first round?
Yeah, you know what? Going into that series, we felt really confident. I mean, we did struggle against some of the top teams. You know, Pembina Valley had a really, really strong team that year. And, we didn't play our best towards the end of the season, which is why, our record kind of, we kind of got worse in terms of our record. And it sucked to see, but we felt like we had played some solid games against, again, some top teams like PV and St. Vital. But going into that series against St. Vital, we were all optimistic and we had a lot of confidence because I'm pretty sure we had won the season series against them, and we always put up a good fight against that team, and they kind of became our rival the whole season. And it was some games were kind of a bloodbath. We had a lot of altercations with that team. And, you go and you get to know some of the guys on that other team, and you also previously knew some of those players even prior to the season, right? Because we were just so close proximity wise and geography wise. But when you go into the playoffs, it's all every man for themselves, and we were just trying to do whatever we could to come out on top. But at the same time, we again didn't have the opportunity to do so with COVID coming into effect for that series, which was really unfortunate for us. And we were pretty devastated because we felt like we could have gained a lot of confidence after potentially beating them in the first round and ultimately trying to beat PV and going for the championship.
So once the season ended, you had some time to kind of reflect on things, knowing that you're going into your final season of the MMJHL hockey. Just for you, you spoke about how it really helped you coming in with just the type of teammates you played in that season. Last year, you talked about how your two-way game got better, and it seems like you're becoming more of an offensive threat than you were when you started in the league. So just after the type of year that you had, of course, going down with injury again, but getting to play, 35 games, just what did you take away from the experiences you had to grow in that season last year?
Yeah, I mean, I always felt like, again, I was a pretty good role player for any team I played on, and coming with the Twins, I definitely got a lot of appreciation from my teammates and even myself for that matter, with the way I was playing and the role I was coming into, and really developing into a more significant role as each game went on that season. And I've always been a good regular season player. I've always played a ton of games, 30 plus games every season, and I always listen to what my teammates have to say, what my coaches have to say, and how to adapt to the game and how to adapt to our team. And I definitely felt like I grew as a player as the season went on. And again, it came down to confidence. When I'm lacking confidence, I'm lacking productivity in my game. But getting the chance to play on the Twins for a full season and having to play alongside some good hockey players definitely propelled me to new achievements and to put up a career high in points and be somebody to get relied on for the penalty kill in certain situations and circumstances. It was definitely a booster for me, and I definitely appreciated my accomplishments that season. Again, the guys I played with were excellent guys on and off the ice, so that helped me a lot too.
Moving into this year, you guys come in, for you it's your last season, and there were some rule changes this year, most notably no fighting because they added cages in. Just what did you feel was the biggest adjustment out there with the rule changes that they put in this year due to just COVID and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, for a fourth and last year guy, I mean, it was kind of a slap in the face when you had to put on a bubble or just the whole cage on your helmet instead of the visor. I mean, I was so used to wearing a visor at that point that I put on a cage and it felt completely different. But yeah, I mean, I understood it. I understood the reasoning for it, and didn't make much of a complaint for it because at that point in September we didn't know if we were going to have a hockey season or not, and ultimately we didn't. But there wasn't much to complain about because we did have the opportunity to get on the ice and go for skates, and we were able to get a somewhat of a training camp in and tryouts and things like that. So it was still, we were fortunate for that, but I mean, it's so hard to comment on our season this year, right? I mean, we only played a handful of games. I think we had a 2-2 record, so anything could have happened for the rest of the season. But I knew that on paper this year, I didn't feel like we looked that good, but I think the guys really bought in early on in the season, and we definitely grew with in terms of confidence and morale and energy in the locker room. So I was really, really optimistic for this season, but once again, COVID, like done for so many other things, just ruined our season. It was really devastating for some of the guys, especially like Seth Nichols, who was such a good leader again and could have ultimately led us to a championship this year. But it sucks for sure.
Yeah, and you put up 1 assist in 2 games played. You had 2 penalty minutes as well. But for you this season, from the short amount of time that you did have to play, what were the things that were really standing out in your game? Because you've had a lot of time in your MMJHL career to kind of play in different roles and stuff like that. What do you feel like your role would have been on this team this year?
I think I would have been again just a strong two-way player. I felt like, coming into training camp this year, I had done quite a bit of training in the gym this past summer, and I felt like I was really strong physically. So I really wanted to be the guy to lay that important hit, that big hit, and be strong in his own end and win those puck battles in the corners. And like I had mentioned, I did have a nagging injury from a wrist injury from last season that was still nagging me it's still nagging me to this day, as a matter of fact. But I think the biggest thing was just trying to play through it, trying to play through the pain, and just try to bring out the best in me and in my game to produce offense, play a good defensive game, whatever it had to be, and however the game was going. I just had to adapt and be that key player, and I felt really good in terms of a leadership role this year. Unfortunately, I didn't get a letter on my jersey, but I think the guys knew in the dressing room who could lead by example, and I definitely was confident enough to say that I was one of them. It would have been such a great season, but again, it's tough that it had to be this way, and who knows at this point, right? So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, you spoke about just how you have a nagging wrist injury and it's still nagging you to this day. Just what's it like rather than just like sitting out with injury compared to just playing through an injury, battling through it? I'm sure that it affected things that you did on the ice, but it seems like you were able to fight through it. What was it like just dealing with playing with that wrist injury with the 2 games that you played in?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. Like last year when I got hurt, there were I think, like I said, 7 or 8 games remaining in the regular season, and I just told my coach that I was a no-go for most of those games, and it ended up being the rest of the regular season just to try to make it the playoffs as healthy as I could. But coming in this year, I had gone through a little bit of rehab, and where I had worked on my wrist quite a bit. But whenever you have a wrist injury that involves a tendon or a ligament of some sort, it definitely takes a lot of time. And unless you get a surgical procedure, which I'm still waiting to see if that's a determining factor, and if I do need one, just because of the backup with all the medical issues regarding COVID. I still don't know what the main issue is in my wrist, but yeah, related to hockey and the season this year, it was an adjustment. A lot of taping of the wrist and trying things out, and you're having to adjust my game, and the way I position my hands and things like that. It definitely did. I guess diminished my performance to a certain extent, but I still felt like my skating was strong, my physical play was strong, and having to adjust my game a little bit was going to be part of the solution. But nonetheless, I still think I would have had an impactful role in the team this year. But yeah, it's again not the ideal circumstance with COVID. Yeah, it's just devastating.
Yeah, for sure. And devastating's been a word that's come up a lot in this interview. And I mean, with the injuries and COVID-19, with this being your last season, yeah, devastation for sure for a guy like you and all the other guys that are gonna age out on the team this year. But let's speak about just some of the guys that you lost this year. You guys lost Cole Zadro. I know you lost Jared Bucci as well. Those are just a couple guys that I can remember off the top of my head, but losing a guy like Zadro and Bucci, who have been a big part of your success last season, how do you feel that in the games that this team played this year, out of the 4 games in total, really stepped up and handled it with the new additions that you guys had coming in?
Yeah, I mean, first off, a guy like Cole Zadro, I mean, he was such an important part of our team. I think he had scored 40 or 45 goals in a 45-game season. I mean, that's absolutely phenomenal in any league. And to have that guy be relied on for scoring so much, it definitely helped relieve some of the stress off the other guys. But at the same time, it was a bit of a wake-up call for some guys to step up and start scoring goals on their end. But nonetheless, those guys were just such good hockey players. And again, a guy like Cole, he was such a good guy on and off the ice, a true leader on our team. And a guy like Jared Bucci, he was a very energetic person on and off the ice, and also such a talented player offensively, especially. I mean, the offensive skill that guy has is incredible. And, losing him this year, it was tough in terms of scoring. We did figure that we were going to struggle offensively, but I think that would have resolved itself. I think we had some guys coming up that were good scorers, but I also want to mention guys like Kevin Gerson, Zach Bannatyne, and Eric Lecuyer and Dylan Mull. Those guys are all age-outs this year too, and a big contributing factor to our team, and they would have been this year had they played. I mean, they were good glue guys on the team, and everybody really appreciated them, and they would have given us a boost of energy for sure every night. And the presence they brought, and some of the guys like Evan would have had what we predicted a breakout season. And not having those guys showcase their talent this year in their final year was it really sucked. But I know we're all going through a hard time, and we just got to get through it. And hopefully we'll look back on this season that could have been and smile at it a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And always tough when, like, out of all the guys that you mentioned, like, to lose like that type of talent coming in, it's definitely huge when you lose guys like Zadro and Bucci and some other guys too. But out of the games that you guys got to play this season, from your point of view, what did you think could have made this team? Because you guys were tied 5th in the league in standings with a 2-2 record. What do you think is one aspect, or I guess a general sense of this team that could have, in terms of strength, really allowed you guys to potentially make a push for a championship this season if the season did continue?
Well, I think off the get-go, it was pretty evident to me anyways that we didn't have a fancy, superstar that was going to score 50 goals that season, this past season. And in a way, that's kind of a blessing, because that way you get a group of guys that come together, and you kind of buy into the systems and buy into the team play. And I really noticed that right off the bat, that guys were buying in right away, and it made for good team hockey. And the systems implemented by the coach it was tough to get used to, considering it was a brand new coach this year. But I think guys really made an effort to adapt as best they could to the style of play we wanted to play. And ultimately, I think it would have panned out for us, because we had a lot of good players for every situation and every scenario that would have been presented to us in a game, whether it was the power play, the penalty kill, a nice grind, a fourth line grind shift, or a big goal to come up on top of the game or to tie it up late in the third. I think honestly we had it all, and the guys really understood each other on and off the ice, and we really got along well. And it would have been a great season for sure if how we played.
And in terms of just looking back at your career, you had a chance to play 4 seasons in this league. Of course, not a full season this year, but you've dealt with injuries and stuff like that. You've battled through the adversity exceptionally well for just getting injured as many times as you did. When you look back at the years you spent playing in the just the years of development you had, and just the memories you made with teammates and this team like the Fort Garry Twins, just what are the things that you're going to always remember and take away from your experience of playing in this league?
Yeah, well, I think I'm going to take away a lot of things. I mean, first off, the friendships and bonds that I've made over the years, with whether it's with the Twins or the Riels. I met some pretty great guys that I still talk to this day, and that I still have a great connection with. And just the growth I was able to show as a hockey player. I mean, I've never been the most talented player on my team. I mean, now I've grown quite a bit since my grade 11 or grade 12 year, but as a young kid, I was never the biggest kid on the ice. And, just to kind of propel my game to a whole nother level, which I never thought I would be able to achieve, was something that I'm really proud of. But, yeah, just being able to play competitive hockey past your high school days. I mean, it was definitely a lot of fun. And notably, to be able to go to school and play hockey at the same time was something that I valued and cherished a lot while playing in the league. Being able to improve yourself as a hockey player, but also be able to get a better chance at a great career of some sort, whatever it is in the future. And to be able to synchronize those two things at once was something that I definitely valued a lot. And lastly, I think, especially with the Twins more so than the Riels, being able to take part in some of the activities, the events, whatever it was related to the team. I was able to be a part of different programs around the community, or to help out the community rather, and to take part to certain events. For example, with the Twins, where they have an annual gala, and there's some great people that come and present. Notably former NHL players, and Scott Oak, CBC broadcaster. So being able to attend things like that, and to meet new people, I think those were the biggest takeaways for me as a hockey player in this league, and especially with the Twins the last 2-3 seasons.
Yeah, and that's unreal getting to see like NHL players, a guy like Scott Oak. I mean, it's pretty incredible, just the type of icon that I guess we should call him Mr. Oak, give him that respect that he is. But yeah, noticing the time here, I know that you have some stuff to do. We're not going to get into the whole thing with your Béliveau career, because that would take a long time, but we're just going to touch on it briefly. And, back in, I think it was 2018-19, you had a chance to play with one of your former teammates from that school in Desi Plant. What was it like getting to reunite with a guy like that on a junior team?
Well, yeah, I mean, Desi's one of my good friends. Obviously, we went to school together, and it was definitely comforting too, knowing that I was getting traded to a team where I actually knew somebody, and he was at that point the only person I knew. And Des and I were really close. He's a very fun, energetic guy, as you know, and there's never a dull moment with that kid, and I definitely appreciate that a lot. And obviously, my grade 12 year in high school was one of my favorite seasons ever as a hockey player. I had so much success. I was the captain of the team, and we had won a championship in Moncton, New Brunswick, which was still one of my highlights of my hockey career. And just to be able to reunite with him on the ice. Obviously, off the ice was nothing had changed. We were still really close friends, and we were around each other quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, it just felt like the old days with the Cudas, and to rekindle with them on the ice was definitely something special.
Yeah, and you talked about how like you guys won a championship in Moncton in your final season. I mean, you guys were never able to get over that hump of making it to the finals, but I mean, 3 straight semifinal appearances is nothing to get upset about. How did you feel like the development, the opportunities that they gave you to travel, stuff like that, experience new things, really helped you down the line in your playing career?
Yeah, I mean, first off, the transition from my old high school to Belleville was something I had never experienced before. I mean, it was for me, it was such a big change, and coming in, it was actually grade 11. I played my first year, but yeah, nonetheless, it was an adjustment period for sure. I mean, I did end up knowing a lot more guys before the season started. Compared to, for example, when I got traded to the Twins, where I only knew one person. But it was definitely a lot of fun. I don't remember a whole lot from my high school days, considering we're a few years down the line now. But the one thing that does stand out to me is like you mentioned, the continuous semifinal disappointments where we get there over and over again, but we just can't find a way for some reason to get past that hump of winning a best of 3 to get to the finals. My grade 12 season against Pierre-Elliott Trudeau, we were one game away from moving on. And what I think about the most, though, is still my grade 12 season against Steinbach Collegiate, who's just such a powerhouse in our division, and ultimately probably should have been in A-Div, considering we were in B-Div. But our grade 12 year was absolutely like such a talented and skilled team, and to not be able to make it all the way to the end and win the championship, it was frustrating for sure.
Yeah, and I guess I'll ask this question because you guys were in C Div in your grade 11 year, and then you guys moved up to B Div, something that had never happened in Belleville's history, moving up a div before then. Just how did you guys feel it was like just moving up a division? You guys owned the C division the year before after finishing first, and then to move up a div, I felt like you guys definitely felt like it was kind of like unfair because it's like we've always played C Div and now we're moving up into B Div. But how do you feel like that team really handled that transition up into going into that div with just the returning players that you guys had and the rookies that you had coming in?
Yeah, for sure. It's an adjustment for sure. I mean, kind of like from going to high school hockey to the MMJHL, it's definitely a faster game. Just like it was when we were playing in C Div and we moved up to B Div. I mean, I think after our first and second game, we realized that this was a whole different hockey game, and we had to be at our best every night. And we also knew that we had a very strong team that year. I mean, I think it's still arguably one of the best teams that the Cudas have ever put out. But we still had a lot of confidence in ourselves, and the guys got along super well. And We ultimately ended up playing, and I think we finished in third or fourth place that season, and we beat out some good teams. You know, we beat out the St. Paul's 2 hockey team, who was a really strong team that year alongside Steinbach, like I previously mentioned. But it was such a fun season, and you know, wearing the C that year was something that I still cherish to this day. And it's like I mentioned before, it's still one of the most memorable hockey seasons that I've ever had.
Yeah, and for so many memories in Valley hockey history for you guys at the time, winning the Moncton tournament was probably the biggest milestone up until that point. But for you to wear the C, to play with these guys that became your best friends, to winning Moncton, so many memories that you guys experienced. Just, do you think there's a memory that you can look at? I know the Moncton one probably is going to be the one, but there's a memory you can look at and be like, that right there is what I'll always remember playing Belleville hockey.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, off the top of my head, I have to think about our trip to Moncton. I mean, so many good memories there. You know, it's like being on a road trip with the boys. I mean, you're staying in the same hotel, you're playing hockey together, and you end up having success doing it. I mean, you know, I still remember our final game where, you know, we had previously played that same morning of that same day. And, you know, some of the guys looked pretty exhausted. I remember we had one guy on our team, I think he was getting sick, and another guy who was hurting. And, you know, so we were banged up a little bit, but I still remember our head coach at the time, Scott Costin, coming into the room before that final game and giving us a pregame speech. And honestly, to this day, I think it might still be one of the best pregame speeches I've ever listened to in my life. So that got us fired up. And, you know, I think we were winning 2 or 3 nothing after 10 minutes of play, and they actually called a timeout. And I remember that being like, holy crap, like this is the best we've been playing all year. And sure enough, I think we ended up winning the game 4-5-1. And you know, we had a few guys get hurt. I remember one guy on our team cut his finger and was gushing blood, and another one had injured his knee. So it was an absolute war to get to that championship game. I remember that, and to win it. And yeah, that was just such an amazing memory. And obviously, having to go back that same day and at 4 a.m, not a lot of guys got some sleep. And I remember first day of class after that tournament, I think 3/4 of the team was missing because we were either all extremely tired or sick. So those are the kind of memories I still remember to this day, and I still talk about it with all my friends from that team quite often. So it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. You guys go out, I mean, take an airplane to this place, you guys end up winning this tournament, and I mean, like you said, guys were sick. Scott Costin gave you guys a great pregame speech, and definitely a memory that I think, like you said, that you'll never forget. But gotta leave you with this one. The fans of Belleville, I experienced just going to some games, and those fans were wild at points. Just what was it like getting to spend 2 years playing with that team and experiencing just home games in front of the fans?
Yeah, that's definitely my second biggest memory from playing high school hockey with the Cudas. I mean, we had such a good support and fan base with our school. Obviously, we were playing in BDiv against some of the biggest schools in the city, and even in the province when you consider Steinbach, in terms of population of students at their schools. I mean, I think we only had 700 kids from grade 7 to 12 at the time, and we were playing schools with 1,200 kids from grade 9 to 12. So just having that support and that local fan base at our games and cheering us on, and some of the noise that you would hear especially during the playoffs, it definitely got you hyped up. That's for sure for the games. And I remember beating, I think it was Gabrois 10-1 or something crazy like that, just from the energy we had gained from the fans cheering us on. So that was absolutely spectacular. And yeah, like I said, something I'll definitely remember from my experience playing for the Cudas. That was extremely awesome. I still don't think I've ever experienced anything more amazing with that. especially compared to the MMJHL, where you have a decent fan base, but it's nothing like high school hockey, that's for sure.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Welcome back to Coffee with Graeme on ASTV Productions. We're going to now be joined by a hockey player from the Saskatchewan Female U18 AAA Hockey League, defenseman of the Battlefords Sharks, number 22, Madison Glynn. And I had a chance to speak to Madison today about her commitment to Liberty University for the fall of 2021, where she's going to be studying exercise sciences. And I had a chance to ask her about a ton of things to do with the commitment, how she's feeling about joining this Liberty University squad, and I also asked her in the interview about her time playing for the Battlefords Sharks throughout these past 4 seasons, but I thought it would be best to save that part of the interview for next week's edition of Coffee with Graeme and just focus solely on the commitment in today's edition of the show. So sit back and enjoy this commitment interview with number 22 of the Battlefords Sharks, Madison Glynn.
And finally, joining me after a bit of confusion about when our schedules would match up is number 22 of the Battlefords Sharks, not Battleford, but the Battlefords Sharks, number 22, 4th year defenseman Madison Glynn, joining me on today's edition of the show. But this interview being recorded the night before this episode goes out. Madison got some fantastic news on February 22nd, where she made her commitment to the Liberty women's hockey team at Liberty University. And we're going to be talking about that tonight, and as well as your career with the Sharks, Madison. But first off, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, thanks. How are you?
Doing great. It's going to be exciting to get into why you decided to commit to Liberty. I know that there's a lot of information out there already why you decided to commit there, but we're going to break that down tonight, as well as talking about your 4 years with Battlefords. So just starting off with your commitment to Liberty University, the university side of things. You committed there on February 22nd. Just what was it like getting to sign the forms that you got to make it official to be a Lady Flame?
Yeah, it was definitely like a relief for me knowing that it's official and that's what my plans are, and knowing that's where I'm gonna go, rather than just still not knowing.
Yeah, and you'd say that you're relieved that you got this done at the time that you got it done.
Yeah, definitely, especially with not having games and that, it's hard to reach out and see other teams and that.
Yeah, for sure. And how has it been for you personally, knowing that this is your last year with the Sharks, knowing that you guys got more of an experienced team this year, knowing that we probably, well, might not be seeing hockey again this year in the Saskatchewan Female U18 League?
Yeah, it's definitely hard. Like, I guess technically last year I could have been considered a senior as well, just given my situation. But it's hard, like knowing this year with our team being better in that, and our coaching was definitely a very, like, our coaching this year is definitely better. And so it sucked only having like those 2 exhibition games and 2 regular season games, because I feel like this year we would have been the strongest that we would have been in the 4 years that I've played in Battleford.
Yeah, for sure. And you guys got more of a experienced team than usual this year, so definitely a good group of vets on the team this year. But for you, you'll be moving out to Lynchburg, Virginia. Just how does it feel to know that you'll be moving away from home for the upcoming, I guess, college season?
It's exciting, also nerve-wracking though, because like it's 31 hours I think from here.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I have the experience of 3 years of billeting, but that's billeting an hour and a bit away, where I see my parents every game weekend and that. So it's definitely going to be different not being able to see my parents at every game, but I'm excited.
And how do you feel that these, even though like it's a shorter drive, like an hour and a bit compared to like 31 hours, these experiences that you've had throughout these years of just building, playing in Battleford is going to help you with your transition and moving away from Liberty moving away from Liberty?
Oh yeah. It'll definitely be like, I definitely have seen like quite a growth in like my responsibility and my independence and that since I came onto the team as a 14-year-old. So it's definitely got and given me the experiences of like not having my parents to rely on in every situation. So I definitely think that'll help.
And what's it been like for you just throughout these years of playing for the Battlefords Sharks of billeting?
I had really good billets, so I really enjoyed billeting. I've had the same billets for all 3 of my years. This year, I wasn't there as often because I did move home at the end of January once we got told we might not have the rest of a season. But I really loved my billets, and they're very encouraging and supportful and all that. And the billet sisters I had were all good every year.
Nice. And getting moved back to home, how has that been like, getting to see the family again?
It's good. Well, it's a lot more of seeing the family than
Yeah.
usually would be, because I'd usually be out and about, but can't this year. But it's definitely nice to be home.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that it's March now, but I bet when the weather was nice for ODRs, you were out on the pond quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely. One of my friends had a like dugout that they made into a pond this year, so we were out there quite a bit.
Right on. Right on. Always nice to get on the pond, whether it's at a community center, or like you said, on a dugout, or maybe even on the river, stuff like that. Always nice to get out. And it sucks now because I don't think that we're going to be seeing people on ponds anymore this year since it's March. It's crazy how time flies. But for you, I forget where I read it. I think it was on Liberty's website that you're a 4-sport athlete. So how has it been for you just throughout the years, like growing as an athlete, growing your skills of just, playing more than 2, more than 3, just 5 sports or 4 sports, sorry.
Yeah, it's definitely like I've got the experiences that you wouldn't get just playing 1 or 2, but like definitely like track and volleyball, like they were just for fun. Like that's just what I did at school when I was there. But softball and hockey have been my 2 main. So that's like hockey is all winter, and then softball is what I do in the summer. There was a bit of overlap, but I definitely like I've been to 2 national championships, I think, for ball. So that's experiences that
Wow.
I wouldn't have got with just hockey.
Wow, that's amazing. And just what was that like, just being able to experience going to 2 national championships in ball?
It was definitely fun. Like nationals were something that were like maybe we weren't, yeah, we didn't win, but it was definitely an experience. We got to meet new people. We got to play against teams we normally wouldn't play against, and teams that could like that are definitely a better team than the ones we play on the daily.
Right on. So would you say you'd say softball is a close second to hockey in terms of where you would rank the other sports that you've played?
Yeah, definitely it's hockey and softball. The other two are just there in my spare time.
Yeah, just for fun, and that's all right too. You can't always have those commitments to every one of those sports, but cool you've had the commitments to those two sports as well. Are you planning on, I guess, later on in your life, maybe joining a adult softball league?
I'm not sure. There's like a few, like in the team I play with right now, like the U19 team, we play against like women's teams. So maybe I would come back and do that when I can, but I'm not sure. I haven't made that decision yet.
Yeah, right on, right on. And there's always opportunity to do that stuff. But let's move back into your university commitment to Liberty. Just they play out of the ACHA Division One League. They've won back-to-back national championships in 2018 and 19. They were on track to defend their title back in 2020, which was last year, and they were ranked #1 throughout the season before COVID-19 forced the cancellation of the national tournament. Just for you, knowing how good this team is coming in, knowing that they've had a pretty strong season so far this year. I think last time I looked, they were ranked #1 in the conference. Just how excited are you to be joining a program like this where you're going to be in addition to a program with a lot of, I guess, winning history in the last few years?
It's definitely really exciting to me coming from a team that maybe didn't have as much success. So I'm really excited to be on a team that has had that success, and then we can continue to build on that success, and I can help with that.
Yeah, for sure. And you're joining a coach, going to be playing for a coach in Chris Lowe's, who had a lot of great things to say about you. And you said that a big part of the reason why you committed was just the impressions that Chris and his coaching staff made. So to get a type of coaching staff like that in a process like this, where you were unable to see the school in person, you were only able to talk to them virtually and kind of, I guess, do this stuff remotely. Just how nice does that feel to know that you're stepping into a team culture like this where the coaching staff is like what you talk to?
Yeah, it's nice. Like I at least like since we couldn't go there, like we just had multiple like FaceTimes and that. So and he like told me his coaching philosophy and what he expects, and that's all stuff that I want from a coach and that I am going to contribute. So it's definitely nice knowing like at least like I've never fully met him just virtually,
Yeah.
but knowing what he expects of his players and how he coaches them is good.
And did you get into like the specifics of kind of like what type of roles he'd be seeing you playing on this team, or do you think that's a bit like too far down the line to talk about right now?
We went into it a bit. Like he said that he definitely could see me playing my first year and making a big impact, considering like my offensive stats have went up in the past 2 years. He feels that I can still be a force in their league too.
Right on. And just for you, what you'll bring to this Lady Flames team, you said this about yourself, is you try to make consistent breakout passes and protect the D zone, as well as be a threat in the offensive zone, using your high hockey IQ to be a playmaker, and also your hard shot to score goals. So for you, just would you say those are probably the biggest things that stand out about you as just the hockey players, just your high hockey IQ, your hard shots on net that, you try to score goals on, stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely.
Right on, right on. And just for you being able to join this team, that I read that it's a key year for just defensemen graduating and stuff like that. How excited are you to be part of the future of what this team is trying to build at Liberty University?
Definitely very excited, and that like with the graduating defenseman, it gives me more of an opportunity, I think, right from when I get there, that I could have more playing time and be more of a force getting the opportunity.
Right on. And I read that like you think that your strong determination and competitiveness to the team, as well as being a good positive teammate, will while always striving to make my teammates and myself better, just quoting that off of the Liberty University website. Do you feel like that's the type of person that this Liberty University squad is going to get, is just a player that's always there for their teammates, a player that's competitive as well?
Yeah, definitely. Like, definitely one of my strongest things is that I'm always trying to get better, and I always put in that effort to get better and make my teammates better.
Right on. And I also read that you're going to be studying exercise sciences. Is that correct?
Yeah, exercise science with like a concentration on like the therapeutic science side, I think.
Awesome. And what interested you the most about going down that path?
Ever since like I've grown up, well, I've went to a lot of physiotherapists because I've had a lot of injuries that have needed it. So I definitely have seen their side, and it's always interested me. And then I decided down like the exercise science path and the therapeutic science because I want to be like a sports team trainer and have like the physio side, so I can do like physio for teams and taping and that stuff.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, and like you, I had my fair bit of encounters with physiotherapists with getting banged up in hockey. So it's nice to know that you kind of got those experiences and kind of took a positive out of it, and that's kind of what you want to go into. That's awesome. So, in terms of just the hockey stuff that you want to achieve while you're attending school at Liberty University, what are the big goals that you feel you'll see yourself setting for yourself come the fall of 2021?
Well, it's definitely going to be a step into a different league that's higher. So I want to like definitely make my agility and like my quickness a bit faster. And I don't know, I just want to have like more of that sense of like knowing what to do with the puck even before I get the puck and that stuff.
Right on. So how do you feel that your time with Battlefords throughout these 4 seasons has really helped you? You might not be exactly where you are in those aspects where you want to be personally right now, but how have you felt that your experiences playing in a AAA league like the SFU18 AAA HL has really, really helped you throughout the years to develop those parts of your game?
Well, I've definitely had to play against some really good players. Coming out as a 14-year-old, I got put into situations that I either had failure or success. So I definitely learned from those situations and was able to see how the other girls in my league play and adapt to that, and see like from what they do and how they're successful. I was able to see how what I need to do to be successful in the league.
Right on. And we're going to talk more about your time with Battlefords coming up after this break when we move into just your years with the Sharks. But, in terms of just the stuff that you want to experience, just as in the university lifestyle, do you have anything in mind that you want to kind of experience during your time attending Liberty University?
I definitely want to meet new people. So it'll be an experience because there'll be people from everywhere coming from small like Saskatchewan. There isn't probably not that many Saskatchewan kids there, so I'll meet kids from all over, which will definitely be an experience that I'm excited for.
And have you had a chance to speak to any of the members on the team during your time of just deciding where you wanted to commit?
Yeah, I've talked to a few. Once I signed, there was a few that reached out to me. I had talked to their captain before I had made the decision to commit, and then I've talked to a few of the new recruits too.
Right on. And I'm assuming that they gave you really positive vibes. How nice is it knowing that, saying that they gave you positive vibes? That's what I'm assuming. Just how important is that for you, just making this transition come next year? Do you think that it's going to make it easier for you having these conversations?
Yeah, definitely. Like I feel like it'll make it easier knowing that like I've talked to them and I know who they are. I'm not just coming in not knowing who a single person is.
Right on, right on. And last question before break, for your family, for you making an announcement like this, a commitment so life-changing, just another step in your development, another step in your career as an athlete. Just how has the support from your family been throughout the time of you going through the commitment process?
Definitely very supportful. They've always been there. They've always told me it's in the end it's my decision and they will support me no matter where and what decision I make, which is definitely really nice.
Right on. And I bet you're hoping to get them out to some games next year if fans are allowed to be in the stands, if COVID allows it.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, well, definitely if we head down to Minot for some games, most of my family will be there.
Yeah, right on, right on. And I guess how excited are you if we do get fans back in the stands, like traditional ways come the next university hockey season? Not sure if they're allowing fans in the stands now, but say there's a full pack crowd, stuff like that. How excited are you to experience the atmosphere of the fans in college hockey?
Definitely excited. It's definitely something I've seen. Like I went to college hockey games and that, and just the atmosphere and how everyone is excited and happy to be there is definitely something I'm excited for.
Making the world a better place is always a work in progress, because our idea of success is not an endpoint. It's a new milestone from which we can move forward. As industries rise and new technologies take shape, we're committed to keeping pace, to ensuring our innovations are shared and our journeys celebrated, even as we set our sights on where to go next. This is how we live, how we learn, how we grow. Red River College, what we're doing is working.
And that's going to do it for this edition of Coffee with Graeme on ASTV. Special thanks to Alexandre Fillion and Madison Glynn for coming on today's episode. Special thanks to you, the viewer, for tuning in to today's show. And also a special thanks to our sponsors in Purinata, Fabricland Winkler, and Evolve Green for sponsoring today's episode. I'll be back on the network at 10 a.m. Central Time on Thursday for another edition of MFHL season coverage. You can catch it on ASTV Productions on Facebook, Amateur Sports TV on YouTube, and on our website at astvproductions.com. But until next time, folks, I've been your host of Coffee with Graeme, Graeme Forsyth, signing off now. Have a good one. Stay safe out there. Go outside and enjoy that lovely March weather if it's nice out where you are living. And until next time, I'll see you later.